Good afternoon, my name is Ruth Miller Smith. I'm Senior Sector Lead for the Fast Track team in UK Trade and Investment. Within that team, we actually work very hard to support companies across the globe, across any sector, who might be looking to set up in the UK relatively quickly, and we help facilitate that process as best we can. I'm delighted today to be joined by Wayne Scholes of Red Touch Media. Wayne is a lifelong entrepreneur. He's the founder, CEO and Executive Chairman of Red Touch Media. And Wayne, thank you for your time today. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, I could tell you loads about my business if you want, but I'll keep it short instead. So Red Touch Media is essentially a company that deals with content. We manage content for both sides of the aisle. So we look after content for studios, where we manage all of their assets, and that could be anything from a PowerPoint presentation that they're using to sell their content, right through to actually managing the content, the actual TV show, the film, and delivering it for them all around the world to all of their trade shows, all of their sales offices, and ultimately protecting that content when it leaves their hands, which is really what studios care about, is where's their content and is it protected. The other side of it is that we license content. So we manage content for retailers, for everybody, whether it's a white label website that we'll provide for somebody so they can sell content, and all the way through to the analytics of what people do with content once they've got it. So we can tell Sony, for instance, this is what people did with that film that they bought. This is how many times they watched it. This is where they watched it. This is where they paused it. This is where they rewound it. So we can tell them all kinds of really cool information to help them make their product better.
Wow, and you actually work with some of the biggest online content providers.
Yeah, we've worked with some really great brands. We've been very fortunate. We've worked with companies like Coca-Cola, NBC is a client, Sony's a client, Paramount, Univision. We work with the biggest content owners and providers in the world.
Mm-hmm. And the company is headquartered in Ohio?
No, Salt Lake City. Yeah, Salt Lake City, Utah, which was a company, we acquired a company there, and it just seemed like a really great place. We liked it there, and so we stayed. Not because I'm a good skier, I'm a terrible skier, but I really liked it there.
And you've got operations in other parts of the globe as well, Wayne?
Yes, this last 2 years has been very much about expansion for us. We had a very good base with the studios. We had a very good base with some retailers in North America. But one of the things that we hadn't really done is looked at the marketplace outside of the US and worked out where we were going to go from there. We had a small operation in South Africa, which is where I founded the company. But we really needed a good base to springboard into the rest of the world from. And it's difficult being in America. There's a lot of great things about America, and we really like being there. But in terms of expanding, not the easiest place to expand from. Time difference wise, whether it's Australia, whether it's Europe or Africa, you are just stuck. So we decided we had to find a new place. So we decided that the UK was going to be the option. It wasn't originally. Right. It was through our contacts with UKTI in the Los Angeles office that we came to look at the UK. And I have to say, look, the UK wasn't on our list. It wasn't even a short list for us. We had a list of 5 countries we were looking at. France was one of them, which was coming quite strong. Ireland was another one. And we just didn't think that the UK was going to be an option for us. Having met with UKTI in Los Angeles, it became evident really, really quickly that it was the only place we could set up if we really wanted to do something effective in Europe and have a good base with, not just from a commercial standpoint, it was silly things that to me are quite, this is going to sound terrible, but I glaze over when they start talking about, okay, well, look at the legal ramifications of where you set up, and I go, no, I don't care. But our lawyers sat down and went, well, hold on a minute, look, the case law in the UK is great, this is what you can expect. And so, the whole flow through of our decision process became much clearer once we put the UK into the mix. The European side of it had become quite confused for us, and once we threw the UK into the mix, things got a lot clearer very quickly. So we have now 2 offices in the UK.
And those offices are in London and
Liverpool. Yeah, we ended up splitting it again. The UKTI guys, they convinced us to look at it slightly differently. Originally we were looking at one office. We wanted to have a 16-hour development day because we do have a lot of software developers. One of the things that we spend a lot of time doing is providing solutions for content owners and retailers. It's all we do. And our business model is very different. We don't charge for software development. Right. We'll provide it for free, as long as we have a good long-term agreement with them for licensing. So, we can go to a studio and do $1 million worth of development for them and it costs them nothing, which makes us very competitive in that market space. The difficulty with that is that, it's an 8-hour day. Well, studios are across the world. They have multiple offices all over the world, and we need to be able to react and give them what they needed. So we knew that we needed a 16-hour development day. And so we wanted to put developers in, but we also wanted a business development office because, of course, we had lots of clients here in Europe. So it was difficult because we sort of kept on looking at one space. We kept on saying, well, is it going to be London? Is it going to be Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool? We just weren't sure. And as it happened, we ended up splitting it, putting a development office with software developers in Liverpool, where from a cost standpoint, it just made perfect sense. And then from a business development standpoint, we wanted to be in London because we knew that that's where a lot of the majors were. And also a lot of where the development was coming from. A lot of the really cool, smaller studios that really needed some help could benefit from what we were doing, and we knew that they were here.
And how have you found it in terms of identifying the right kind of skill sets and the right kind of people? Is that an ongoing process?
Yeah, it is, but actually that was one of the things that I think we found the easiest. It was actually the thing that we thought would be the hardest. But again, I'm not trying to sing praises for UKTI, as awesome as you are.
Thank you, Wayne.
It was actually the thing that they helped us with the most, because one of the most difficult things when you're trying to find the right software developers is knowing where to find them.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
not just knowing where to find them, but how to attract them.
Yes.
Well, we're an American company. At heart, we're a South African company. But realistically, most of our staff, the head office is in the US. So when it came down to how do we attract the right developers in the UK, we just didn't know. We didn't know what the salaries should be. We didn't know what the averages were. We didn't know who our competitors were. We didn't know who we should nick some developers from. We didn't know any of that. And the UKTI was able to give us this incredible wealth of information that just made life. Honestly, it probably cut 6 months off our process.
That's interesting to know, because often with clients we're able to give a helicopter view in terms of benchmarking salaries perhaps between different countries and certain skill sets, but also working with local partners in different parts of the UK, we can also drill that down to a local level, and that can be more meaningful in terms of real time, in terms of what salaries.
Oh, there's no question. When we talked about the salaries for developers in Liverpool, we were able to get not just a snapshot of the country and of the region, Merseyside, Manchester, the Northwest. It was in the city centre, this is what people are earning. If you want to take anybody from a gaming company, ironically, one of our clients actually has a software development wing for their gaming division. So I felt slightly guilty about it. But they were able to give us exact numbers. They were able to say, look, this is the salary that they're earning in gaming, this is the salary they're earning in software development, this is the salary they're earning in computer software development. So it gave us so much more information.
Absolutely.
And the reality of that is, look, it does just save you time. And the faster I can get to market in a new area, the better it is.
It's all about trying to help clients make a very informed decision, as you say, very, very quickly.
Yep.
And the company is obviously one of the fastest growing companies in its field. So you're actually looking to grow further?
We are. Honestly, I can't hire people fast enough.
That's incredible.
So it is one of those things. The only downside is that, of course, when you're in that growth mode, that you do want to be careful that you don't get carried away with it. So we do have to sometimes take a step back, and we'll sometimes hold off for a couple of weeks whilst we just make sure we've got the right focus. So we are in a great space like that, where we are expanding. Certainly in Liverpool, we'll have about 30 employees in the Liverpool office by the end of next year. We've hired the first 5 there now. We should have probably about another 4 by the end of this year. It might be 5, but we should have another 4 at least by the end of this year. We've got great new offices there in the Port of Liverpool building, which I just love.
Great location.
Oh, Liverpool was one of those shocking places. I think that was one of my favourite things about it was my heritage is Liverpool. My grandmother and my grandfather are from Liverpool, and I'm a big Liverpool football fan. I got season tickets, and I generally have a good reason to be in England every 2 weeks for home games.
Which is helpful.
Yeah, it's coincidence purely. But Liverpool was certainly. For me, from a personal standpoint, was a great place to be, but we never looked at it for business. And when we got there, we suddenly realised that it was an absolutely stunning city with a wealth of media heritage and not just in the entertainment business because of the music side of things, but the people there are actually highly educated. They just had a rough time. I mean, it was just there was a rough 20 years, and they are hungry for success, and that for us, I think was the biggest surprise, that we found people who were just hungry for success, willing to work hard, and are really diving into it. And our employees in the Liverpool office are fabulous. I love coming over and seeing the energy that we have in there, and that building just adds to it, because you get there and the architecture in Liverpool is so fabulous that you can't beat it. It's just wonderful.
It's a great location. And in terms of sort of from a UKTI perspective, topping and tailing the service, we deal with companies when they're first looking to come in, but obviously when they've landed, as we would term it, then you work with an account manager, and you have an account manager at the moment, Nigel, who links in with you and gives you any ongoing support. Yeah,
and he's awesome. I mean, what I like about the UKTI, again, it's easy to. I mean, look, I've got criticisms as well, but just not as many. Like the great thing about Nigel is I can sit there with Nigel and have a drink and have a meal, and we can have a genuine conversation. There's nothing. I don't feel like I'm being pitched on anything. I don't feel like there's any coercement or any. It just doesn't feel like there's any pressure. It just feels like a consultative
sell.
It's a very, very genuine conversation, which makes it so much easier for me, because I know that there are times where I've asked him questions and I've expected him to almost pitch me, and he's gone, actually, Wayne, I got to be honest. Let me tell you that this is the way it works, and. Look, it makes my life easier, because again, when you're talking about an entrepreneurial flair in a business, which I try and foster within the business, it is about time. It's all about time. If you don't hit the market at the right time, if you don't expand at the right time, if you don't pull back at the right time, if you don't do things at the right time, you'll miss out. You'll make mistakes. And so having the right information is absolutely critical. And that was one of the things with Nigel. Honestly, with everybody at UKTI, I haven't had a bad experience with the personnel at UKTI. The LA office works. I'll tell you actually my favourite thing. My favourite thing is that I haven't noticed a difference between the LA office, the London office, the Liverpool office, and the other offices around the world. Like, I've met people from UKTI from all kinds of different offices around the world. Not once have I felt like there was any degree of separation between them. They all were thinking about what was right for Red Touch Media. How could they help us? Was there a place to expand? Who could they introduce us to? And we've certainly gotten business from the relationships that UKTI has introduced us to. There's no question about that. Right. But it's very comforting for me to know that you're talking to the team in Liverpool, that you know who they are. Not only do you know who they are, but you're friends with them, and that they know the people in LA and they know the people in New York. And there's no territorial piece with this. And I think as a growing business, the last thing I want to do is get involved in politics. Well, partly because I'm a terrible politician. I should say our office, I'm awful for it. I can't cope with politics. So we call it out whenever we see it. So for us, there are partners where we've walked away because we felt like it could have been too much of a political relationship where I just don't want to get into politics with people. It's just too much hassle in the business.
And the team in UKTI are very much client focused and private sector focused.
Very
much solution driven and finding value for the client where we possibly can.
But the solution side of it's actually interesting, because I think it's easy as a company to think that the only thing you can do when you're moving into a new area, we're looking at Australia at the moment. It's very easy to think, okay, well, all the responsibility is with us as the company that are expanding. UKTI took a huge amount of that pressure off us by looking at solutions. Going back to the London-Liverpool split, it was the UKTI guys, Andrew Lewis in LA, that said, well, maybe you don't have to have them in the same office. And I went, oh, don't be daft. I can't afford to open two offices in London at the same, one in London, one in somewhere else. And he went, why not? Have you run the numbers yet? And I said, well, no, honestly, I don't have time. And he went, well, give me a day, we'll figure it out. So literally 24 hours later, I'm looking at sets of numbers for opening in different areas of the UK and a London office. And it dawned on me really quickly, just looking at the bottom line numbers, it was going to be cheaper. It actually cost me less to open two offices than it did to open one. And that was because I think the UKTI certainly has a mentality of solution-driven conversations. And I think, look, we've talked to a lot of people, a lot of different countries, and I haven't found the same mentality. The closest is perhaps Australia.
Okay.
But other than that, I haven't found anybody else who thinks like that.
Thank you, Wayne, for your time today, and best wishes with your new venture
Thank
in
you.
Australia, and let's hope you have a similar experience. I'm sure you will.
Well, they've got some benchmarks to meet up to.
That's good to know.
Might not be good for them.
And on behalf of UKTI, it's a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure having supported you and continuing to do so.